Well, hello everyone. It's great to be here again with another webinar in our series Between Two Hats. And this time I'm really excited because we will continue a conversation that we started in the previous webinar with a special guest, Steve Parkes. And we started talking there about user retention and engagement and the relationship of that with actually content moderation and how those two things relate to each other and the importance of those factors there. So this time I'm super stoked to be speaking here with a great industry friend, someone who I have the privilege of working with in the Fair Play Alliance quite a lot in the steering committee together. And I would like to introduce you to Elise from Rovio. Thank you so much, Elise, for being here to chat with us.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. And thank you, Carlos, for inviting me.
Oh, it's our pleasure for sure. So Elise, before we get started, it would be great to hear from you regarding your background and your current role at Rovio, if you don't mind sharing, please.
Absolutely. So I work at Rovio. So in a nutshell, Rovio is quite old company per se. Like we started in 2003, named Rovio in 2005, made Angry Birds in 2009, so almost 10 years ago. I myself am director of operations in Rovio, which means that I take care of many central services and projects. I have under me user research, localization, and app store operations. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's my background. But I've been working in the mobile industry all my career and always in operations, so I'm a very operational person.
Nice. Well, first thing, it's incredible to know that Angry Birds has been around for almost 10 years.
It is, isn't it?
That's insane and very cool.
Children do not know life without Angry Birds. That's amazing.
That's right. Tough to believe. And also your role sounds very diverse. Like you touch a lot of sides of the organization, right? And I find it really cool that you also take care of that user experience journey and understanding of all the factors that affect that, which is really great. So with that in mind, it would be good for us to start thinking about the core theme here of our conversation today. So you already shared about your role and a little bit of Rovio there. Would you be able to tell us about the core vision of Rovio, and also what are your main titles?
Sure, absolutely. So we like to define ourselves as a games-first entertainment company. So game is really the core of what we do, but we do not limit ourselves to that. We also have a licensing business and we have the movies, obviously. So that's why we are overall entertainment, but game is our main focus. And I think the games we are most known for is, of course, the Angry Birds franchise. So the original Angry Bird, which came out in 2009, and I think our most successful game at the moment is Angry Birds 2, so the sequel of the first. And in the meantime, well, we had a whole bunch of Angry Birds games, and we also have like some different IP games like Nibblers and Battle Bay, or like different IPs.
Great. So just a fanboy moment here. One of the coolest things that I've found that you have done in terms of partnership was partnering with Iron Maiden. I think that was so cool.
That was super cool.
Yeah, really nice. In terms of user engagement, how do you currently measure that for your titles there?
Yeah, so we look at different metrics to measure user engagement. We measure the amount of new users, the session length, so how long they play per session, the session interval, so how long between the sessions, how long they played overall, the conversion from call to action, from download, etc., and the lifetime value of the player, so how long they play, how long they stay, how much they have spent. These are basically the main metrics we use to measure engagement at the moment.
Sounds good. And how about user retention? How do you go about measuring that?
Well, retention is like very important nowadays with a free-to-play and game as a service. So we measure, of course, the basic D1, D3, D7, D30. But now with user acquisition and all, we really look at longer terms like D180 or even D2 years. So that's basically how we measure retention.
Got it. I know that as a company, you also do a bunch of amazing things that end up affecting user retention and engagement, because you take a very diversified approach into how you talk to your users, how you really provide an excellent experience. So I was wondering, what kind of things do you do as a company and as a team to encourage better user experience and better retention as well in your products?
Well, I would say the first thing we do, and it might sound basic, but it is true, is that we want to make sure that the game we make are games that players want to play, that are fun. Games have changed a lot since the start, like from Java games to premium games. Now we are in the world of free-to-play, of games as a service. So we have to make sure that we have elements in the game, events that make the player wants to come back every day, back in the game. We try to work to make the players feel value. We organize competitions like Design a Level that has happened in France, for instance, or Choose Your Character. We do Facebook posts that they can respond to. We try to be there for them, to have someone that can communicate with them. You try to be in touch with them, to listen to really their feedback and impact it, and make sure that our answers to them are always personalized. Yeah, that's, I would say, yeah, the biggest part of it. But it's a work of every day, really.
For sure. And that's one of, I would say, one of the challenges that we face when we're talking about user retention and user engagement, as we move on to the next part of our talk here, which is understanding how content moderation relates to that, right? How, because I would say for user engagement, and let me know if you agree, and retention, there are many factors that influence that, right? If we have issues like bugs in the game or in the product, or if there's a new release and perhaps players really love it, or perhaps they don't like it, or how often do you have releases, how often do you have novelty in the game, and new features, new items, new ways of interacting, social elements as well for people to interact with each other. But then there is another factor, right, which is what we talk about, which is disruptive behavior. And a lot of times when we talk about disruptive behavior in the industry, when we talk about it in the Fair Play Alliance, when we talk about it here at UHAT, we think about negative behavior, we think about antisocial behavior as anything that gets in the way of the intended experience of the game, right? Being, we like to think that online games are a place for people to have fun, to make friends and have a really good experience at the end of the day. Anything that gets in the way of that, which could be cheating, it could be a really bad username that is provocative. It could be harassment. It could be bullying. It could be hate speech. All those things that we know in the industry that affects the user experience, of course, and then the user retention as well, right? So with that in mind, it would be interesting to know, why is moderation, content moderation, important to Rovio?
Yeah, so we are an entertainment company, and we try to be really inclusive. We want to make games and give experiences that everybody can participate to. We want to be, we are glad when we hear grandmother playing with her grandchild, or parents playing with their children, or friends playing together. It's really important that everybody can feel like a Rovio game is a good quality game, and that you can go there and have fun and feel safe. So we want to provide our players a safe place to just enjoy.
Excellent. That's a really good perspective, right? Like your audience, it's varied. So you have the whole family playing the game, and the importance of having that welcoming environment is not to be overlooked, right? It's great that you think in those terms. I mentioned previously usernames, right?
Yeah.
And we know that usernames can be a tricky area, because it's kind of your invitation card, right? You bring your name with you and you go into the game. Could you tell us a little bit about how you currently deal with usernames, and also what are your strategies and techniques to deal with that, or your flows?
Absolutely. So yeah, as you say, usernames are like one of the most common things, and one of the first things you will see. They are they can be perceived as such a small innocent feature, but they can have like really some strong impact. Our policy, like, so we use community sift from 2hat. We have different rules per languages per game, because we have like a game like Battle Bay can not be the same that Angry Birds Pop or something like that. They have like quite different audiences. It's quite genre. So we try first to block even the possibility to do something offensive or hurtful to anyone from the engineering side. So we know that engineering is always a better solution than punishment. You know, like if we prevent negative behavior from the start, it's much more effective. So encourage positive instead.
Awesome.
But sometimes it doesn't work. So then we take measures such as warning. We try to contact the player first to really diffuse the situation and explain that please change your name. This is offensive to some, or this is not respecting rule, da da da. If they do not listen, what we sometimes do is we try to be a bit humorous in the way we do it, so we can change their name ourselves. If you have like a really like try heavy aggressive name that offends people, we might change it to some pretty little pink flower or something that will embarrass you, but you will get the message, but it's not harmful in any way. But of course, if it doesn't work, then we have to take strong measures and you know, ban for a temporary time or forever. But this, in the end, it can happen.
Yeah, that's a really good insight into how you do this. I really appreciate your thoughts about the engineering from the get-go. When you choose your name, there's already some safeguard in place. Would you say it's the same for your clan names? Is that how you call it? Is it clan?
Yeah, we have clans. We have clans in several games. So of course, Angry Birds, when we started at the premium game, there wasn't so many social features, but as I say, with the switch to free-to-play, game as a service, the social part of game is more and more important. So we have started integrating that. A few games of ours have clan names, like ABBA, Angry Birds 2, for instance. And yeah, so in Evolution, Angry Birds 2, Battle Bay, we have clan names, and we have the same rules that work with that.
Excellent. That's something that for people to consider as well, right? Like you have the user names, but then you have that clan name, and
yeah,
for some games it could be a team name. It could be like also room names, right? When users are able to create their own room names and customize that. Whatever
you can customize or you let the user create, you have to be careful. Like you're accountable for what they're going to do with it. So the more you can prevent this kind of thing from happening in the first place, the better.
I agree, absolutely. And like a question about like the heart of the matter, really, like why do you filter usernames? And like why, and how about like a chat or anything else? Like what is the purpose? What is the why for you?
Like I said, we want people to be able to feel safe. And it's not always that people mean bad when they do it, but usernames, clan names, all that, they can spread, they're short, but they can spread a message that can be seen as aggressive, that can be provocating, make other user feel bad. You can create a name saying like player X is a noob or something like that, that will make the other player feel bad. We also obviously do that in chat, like we have filters, support for languages, but yeah, it's extremely important. Like I said, like you are accountable as a game creator for the space that your players are in, and you want that they can exchange, be social and all, but you want everybody to feel safe. So it has to be fair for everybody.
Well said. It really relates to the core of that user experience that you're talking about, right? Which I think it's I really appreciate that perspective that you have, Elise. Of it is a crucial piece of the puzzle there for Rovio and for what you do. How about the connection of the connection between, content moderation and doing all those important things in usernames and chat, and the user experience itself and the user retention in the long run? What are your thoughts regarding that connection?
Well, like I said, in terms of retention, we see how long the people play, how engaged they are. So if they are frustrated or unhappy, or they don't feel like they want to go in the game because they don't feel safe in there, they won't stay. So it affects a lot. They will leave your game and you will lose players. So there is lots of benefits to moderation. There is also avoiding the negative, but there is also the positive side of moderation, that when you have team moderators, like moderators in your team, they can help with so many things. They can help when people complain about a bug, they will help like reporting it to the team directly. It will get fixed faster. This will help in terms of responsiveness, and the moderators, just its presence can diffuse a player's anger, frustration, or anxiety. So this immediate gratification really beats waiting for a response to a ticket, and listening can create this feeling like of this safe haven to play in. So I would say those contribute a lot to retention and engagement.
That's a really fascinating angle, because it also goes away from that whole hand slapping, just seeing moderation as just a hand slapping, like a hard type of approach, right? A heavy approach.
Absolutely.
But sorry.
Okay. You go.
I really like that approach as well, of what else can you spot in the community, right? Something we were talking about yesterday, Elise, was that whole idea of most chat is very positive, right? Most folks are engaging in a very positive manner. And we remove that disruptive behavior as an important best practice, as an important, like a baseline, right? Foundational point of making sure that usernames have that safeguard we're talking about, engineered in the process of creation, but also the same for clan names, or the same for chat as well. So folks they're not going to harass each other or use hate speech or cheat in the game and things like that. Now that we have that out of the way, it's awesome that all this stuff we can see, right? Which is the normal is not the disruptive behavior. The normal is all the good stuff that's happened. But in that good stuff that's happening, there is the human element that you're talking about, right? As players, we get frustrated and we need an answer. But when we have that presence from the game company, it feels much more personal, right? It feels much more connected.
Indeed.
I really appreciate that combination that we talk about of machine and humans, right? So it's great that you do that. You have your team and you leverage technology as well.
Yeah, you can't just rely on one or the other. It needs to be a combination.
Absolutely, I agree. So in terms of when you made your choice, for you chose the technology for Rovio, what was the factor? Like, why did you choose to Hatch as a provider for your for the solution there?
That is a good question. So when we started to have Battle Bay and the in-game chat, we really started to face a situation that we didn't have before, where we couldn't rely just on our own tools. We needed something better, and our head of operations at the time was a former person from Habbo Hotel. So he was working on a very social game, and he used to work with you, so he recommended it. We had our tech team do some tests on 3 different providers by putting words, seeing how they get flagged and all, and basically your tool was just the most efficient. So we decided to go with it, and no regrets so far.
Awesome. It's great to hear that, and it has been great working with you also on that capacity with between 2Hat and Rovio, which is great. So as we look into the future of this space, right? And I know it's a topic that is very dear to our hearts as we talk about how can we show more correlation, right? In terms of user experience and player retention as well. How does that relate with doing things about player behavior, doing things about content moderation? It would be interesting to hear first, Elise, what are your thoughts about what are the moderation trends that you're seeing in the industry, the things that we can look forward to in the future, perhaps?
So like I basically mentioned a bit, I think like moderation is not seen anymore only as being there to enforce rules, or rules that are sometimes judged useless or unfair by users. But moderation is starting to be appreciated for responsiveness, for being there. So it's not censorship anymore. It's part of the overall experience, part of the overall design. So that, I think, is a trend that is just going to increase and increase, that moderation is taken part from the start of the game design, so not something added at the end. I think with technology part, I think machine learning will progress a lot, and we probably would have much more efficient tools to work with. So overall, we should get pretty good experiences.
I hope so too. And I appreciate so much your perspective of looking at content moderation as part of the design of the user experience. It becomes that essential piece of the puzzle, right? And I agree with you 100% that this is the way of the future. It's where the industry is going. And for online games, but also for social platforms in general, because when we consider this legislation that's coming up, right? New legislation, new requirements, it really becomes that it's a part of the design, it's part of the common sense, and not censorship and not something that's heavy-handed. I think you have a fantastic, very cohesive, very articulated way of putting this, and that in itself is an improvement in the industry. Is our language is becoming clearer, and we are speaking about the same things, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, in terms of what do you think that needs to change, specific in the gaming industry, but perhaps beyond the gaming industry, because I think it's applicable. What needs to change? Because when I say change, it's right now, it's still very hard to show the correlation between content moderation and how it affects the user experience and how it affects or not user churn and user retention and all those things that we're always thinking about as platforms. What do you think needs to change in the industry for us to show that key connection and show the metrics and the proof to folks?
I think well, at first, what we say, moderation is still as a positive part of the design in the first place. That's going to help a lot. But I think we all, as an industry, as members of an industry, need to feel accountable and responsible for it. So movements like the Fair Play Alliance that we both belong to are really a good first step in that, and they can help because we will provide resources, create shared experiences. People talk together a lot and exchange, and it's nice to see that we have a lot of like-minded folks that want to move in the same direction. So I think together, and we'll only be able to do that together, once we all get there and we all work toward the same goal, we will be able to do some surveys, A/B tests, industry-wide, cross-game-wide, and be able to prove that not only it works in one game, but it works in every game. Then the correlation will be very clear. There is researches that can be made. I'm confident we will be able to prove it together.
I agree, and it's nice to see that some steps are already being taken, right? Like we're starting to see some studies out there. We have a white paper that's coming out very soon, which is very exciting, and I appreciate that you have been very kind, Elise, to offer one of your quotes to be part of the white paper. And absolutely. I think our conversation here relates to that quite a lot, right? Relates to this this goal that we're having as an industry to show this correlation, to make sure that, like we discussed earlier today, I think a lot of us know that it's the right thing to do to take care of players and to take care of communities. We know this is the right thing to do. Where we have an opportunity is to show a better correlation between that and the business, because then we get wide buy-in from many different communities to say, hey, yeah, let's do this together, like you said. I really appreciate that that perspective that you have there. So we have actually reached now the end of our of the chat, of the questions. However, I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience so we can hear what folks think, and comments and questions in general, please. To ask your questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature in Zoom, or you can also use the chat. So whatever works best for you, just feel free to do that, and we will check here. So if nobody has a question,
no, we do.
We
have a question now.
Oh, we do there. Is it in the chat, right?
In the Q&A.
In the Q&A, got it.
It's, will the FPA be at GDC again this year? This next year, 2019?
Absolutely. We are having actually a meeting on Thursday, like the whole steering committee, to try to drive this forward, but the work is really ongoing. We have secured the funding. We will be there, bigger than last year, better organized, with more deliverable and concrete stuff for you. So come there, and we are very much looking forward to seeing you all.
Updates from the FPA?
Sorry, I was muted for that time. So Leah just said it's a really great question, and if we have any updates about the FPA. So what sort of updates were you thinking?
Just curious, anything new to share? Do we have to wait for GDC to get all the latest?
Hopefully not.
Well, would you like to say something about that, Elise?
Please go ahead. I answered the last one.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much going on, right? You can imagine that as an alliance now that's formed by more than 100 game developers. I think we are over 100. We have a lot of possibilities of what we can do. Like Elise said, the possibility of collaboration. Even like taking a look at GDC and how much bigger we're going with GDC, you can imagine that there are many different things we could do, right, Elise? Like all the groups that have gotten in touch with us, all the different possibilities. So a big part of our annual meeting that's happening this week is to determine our 2019 focus, right? Our key priorities. We have so much going on. So you can definitely look out for some good updates and all sorts of updates. I think I'm not going to spill the beans too much here. I think it's a good point. Like GDC probably is a good time to hear a lot from us, and probably through media, through our various sessions, and folks will know a lot that's going on.
We have 2 questions
in
the Q&A. I'm
Nice.
going to get to those.
All right. All right, so there's a question here, Elise, that is, do you have currently any data on how moderation can improve game KPIs?
We don't have data per se. We have done few surveys on very game specific. The results were pretty positive. I'm hoping to work with Carlos and to do a white paper next year to really find a data that we can share. So the KPIs are not there yet. We are working on it, and we will really try to deliver something that can show correlation next year.
Cool.
That's awesome. We have one more question, Elise. And the question is, how did you start your career in gaming? I like that one.
That is a good question. So I'm French, but I live in Finland. I moved there to the usual story, met a guy, moved there. It's actually funny because my degrees are totally unrelated to games. I have a master's in English. I thought I would work in the movies industry. I have a master in political science as well. But when I moved here, I just didn't speak Finnish. So I found a job in a localization QA in a company called Digital Chapter, then that was doing Java games. And it was love at first sight. This is just a universe that you work in that really, like, you don't get the same feeling anywhere. So I've been sticking there, and now it's been almost 10 years, and I will not change. So I'm planning on staying my whole career, and all in operations. So I've been doing QA submissions. I've been leading some teams of programmers, some artists, and now I have 3 teams under me. But I think like working centrally gives me such a wide perspective of the whole business that I wouldn't change it really.
Very nice. I can see the passion for the gaming industry when you talk about it. So it's really, really cool to hear more about your career and even learning some things that I didn't know about, which is nice.
We need to talk more often.
One more question?
Yeah, one more, then we'll have to wrap it up.
All right. So what is your current view on the effect of legislation that is expected to be put on game devs and moderation?
I think with legislation is always 2 sides. I mean, the intention is always good. It's good sometimes to put some accountability and responsibility of the players, but I think to be more efficient, it needs to come from the inside out. You can force stuff, but stuff will be done then halfway. So yeah, fine, I need to have a moderation tool in my game. I will put one and that's it. I click the box and I won't take care of it. I will just do something fast to move forward. So I'm always wary about legislations because it can be counterproductive in this way. I really think that we need to concentrate and make things move forward as an industry before we are forced to do it. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, very well said. It's there's something to be said about actually embedding it into the whole process, right? Instead of just slapping a makeshift, just like something to please the legislation, right? Like I really appreciate that approach of let's do it proper. Like that's really good. And as a few closing thoughts here, Elise, a couple of things that I really were to highlight for me in our conversation today. I would say that the whole idea that you mentioned of like the core vision of Rovio, right? Like why you really want to provide an environment that's healthy and safe and fun for your audience that's very varied. So it's not only the young audience, but the parents, the grandparents can be playing with the kids. So really thinking about user experience in that way, where you have a very holistic view of it, including all the factors that play into that user experience, and one of them being content moderation, and how you see that as part of the design, as a piece of the puzzle that leads to better user experience. Those thoughts really resonated with me. And before we finish, I would love to hear your closing thoughts and anything, some parting words you would like to leave us with.
Well, I mean, we have a big challenge ahead of us. Like as every cultural challenge, this will take time. But I've seen progress already. I've seen much more awareness from the industry. I've seen more awareness from the players as well. So I think we are moving to the right direction. And like I said, I always touch when I see that lots of industry person feel like us and want to move with us. So I'm very confident that we will get to some nice place in the near future. So let's all keep on doing it and keeping on thinking that we are not alone playing our game and we are in the world with everybody. So let's just show a little respect. It's the basic.
Awesome, that's excellent. This has been such a great pleasure. Such a good chat, Elise. It was really awesome to do this with you all through the process, and now finally delivering live with everybody who attended. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Leah, for all your help with the webinar. Thank you, Elise, so much for your time and for sharing your expertise with us. And we'll see everyone again, hopefully soon. Bye.
Bye.